Welcome back into Mining Stock Daily, everybody. We are heading, well, actually, to a couple places other than Nebraska, where this was the last site visit I actually was able to visit the Rift Rare Earth Project with Apex Critical Metals. We're also going to chat a little bit of new drilling at the CAP Critical Minerals Project here, and also a little bit of a new listing as well. Happy to welcome in Jonas Lang from the company. Apex Critical Metals does trade on the CSE with APXC, on the OTCQX with APXCF, and also in Paris now. This is a first for me, actually. Trading on the Euronext Access Paris. Jonas, Paris. You got a lot of investors in France there?
We've got a pretty sizable European shareholder following. This is just a more premium exchange in Europe that does give us more access, of course, to France, but just a higher quality trading platform for all European investors.
Okay, very good. That's a first for me. So that's something to be paying attention to, obviously adding a little bit more liquidity wherever you can. Let's touch base here with Rift. And obviously, this touches home for me. We've talked about that numerous times, but about a month ago, you did publish new drill results, really high grade rare earth oxide hits, almost 15 meters of just over 5% REO, 12.3 meters of 5.6% REO, and all that was just in a larger intercept, 191 meters. But Rift continues to deliver for you.
Yeah, it does. These drill holes, 7 through 10 rather, were located in that general proximity of the historical drill holes, just verifying and expanding on those historical results again in that area. Mineralization extending 400 meters down dip and 120 meters to the east in that area. So 10 holes now, we're seeing close to 400 meters in strike and down dip. So the system just continues to grow with every drill hole. And importantly, we've just wrapped up drilling on holes 27 and 28, moving to 29 and 30 as we speak, with assays only reported so far for 10 holes. So a lot more assay results building in the queue here that I expect will continue to be released right into Q4 this year.
Yeah. So when I was there, I did see both drill holes working, fairly close together. Are you talking, when do you start maybe looking at, full scale of Rift, doing some real big step outs? Is that something that you guys are eyeing this program?
Yeah, we are. If you look at the drill pattern on our latest presentation, you'll note these fences, 100-meter spacing between holes that have started to step out to the west, and that's because visually the indications, our team is much better able to call intervals based on visuals. We see a reddish brick-colored altered hematite rock, which you probably got to see when you were at site. And we've had very good success stepping out to the west on these 100-meter centers. It dips a bit to the west in that direction. So we've had a lot of success there. Based on the visuals, it looks like another 400 to 500 meters pushing out to the west. So again, scale seems to be very apparent here and consistently hitting very good grades. So we're excited about that. In terms of broader step outs, yes, that is part of the plan. There was a historical hole well to the south of this area that had some excellent results. I expect we will drill one in that area just to show how open this is to the south. We're also in the process of refining some of these more regional targets. There's one historical hole about 4 kilometers away to the northwest on the other side of the NioCorp holdings that had a very excellent rare earth interval in the upper portion of the hole, and also had a approximately 10-meter run of 0.8% niobium. So that's another area that I expect we will drill at least a hole during this year's campaign.
Jonas, you're stepping out west. You are getting pretty close to the NioCorp land package itself. Do you have communication with them or any sort of exploration partnership or anything that would maybe allow you to take a drill rig further west onto their property and drill to the east, or how would you kind of move the drill rigs and go about it at a different direction? Like, what are you thinking here as far as accomplishing this step out?
In terms of what we've got planned right now, we're still well within our boundary for now. I mean, it's a good question for future consideration. I'd say based on what we're seeing in our 3D model and the number of directions that mineralization remains open, well within what we're working on our claim holdings here. There's a lot of room, and in terms of this year's program, that won't be an urgent thing to consider. But going forward, we see a number of parties that would make sense as strategic investors, and certainly NioCorp would be one of them. So I'm sure those conversations will pick up later this year and early next.
Okay, very good. I gotta give you credit. I mean, there's a lot of land here that's just kind of ripe for more exploration. Can you give us a sense of the conversations with the landowners, with the farmers that you currently have the kind of looking at exploration? Are those continued ongoing? I think any sort of farmer that can make some money off of not doing anything on land, that's a really good deal for them. It beats the heck out of farming, actually. But what's the conversations like with the other landowners on the claims you hold?
Yeah, so I was just to site for my first time quite recently. And I've been to a lot of sites, as I'm sure you have as well. One of the things that stood out to me, it was the easiest site visit I think I've ever been on, just in terms of infrastructure,
Okay.
blacktop highways, and then I'm used to doing a lot of work in Canada or Mexico, other jurisdictions where you're on fairly challenging roads once you get off the main highways, and that's not the case here. Very short 5-minute drive on a gravel road right up to a farmer's place. And those discussions were great. They're very interested in what we're doing. Even ran out and got the group sandwiches from one of their favorite local spots. They're keen and looking at the core with us. As you said, I think that kind of economic revival of this whole area, based on some of the purchases that NioCorp made along the way, certainly spreads throughout the community, and they've been very, very supportive, even bringing out their tractor gear to help
Hmm.
remove a rig if there was a rainstorm and a rig got stuck for a moment. So they've been incredibly supportive. And it just stands out that working on private ground is so much more efficient and flexible. This is also, you talk about the only rare earth mine operating in North America. That's MP Materials Mountain Pass. The cost of industrial power in Nebraska is 3 times cheaper.
Hmm.
So again, there's a lot of advantages, nearby rail, and then you have that neighbor advantage with NioCorp breaking ground on construction as well. So there's a lot of synergy here, I think, going forward, and just an excellent place to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Super easy on my site visit. My dad and I loaded up the truck in Lincoln, and in 90 minutes, we were on site looking
Yeah,
at core and hit maybe a quarter mile of gravel road.
yeah.
Everything was else was on highway. And a big shout out to the Texas gentleman in Tecumseh who, man, he made some excellent barbecue. Well worth a stop there on the side of the road. He's got a little food cart thing with his smoker out there. Super good brisket, I might add. So,
We tried to find that spot. Apparently, he's mobile and not always there. So unfortunately, he
oh,
was not there when I was in town.
okay. Well, next time. Hopefully next time he's there. Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot more drill results coming here from Rift in Nebraska. Really excited to watch this. You have mobilized rigs to another exploration camp. That's the CAP Critical Minerals Project. That was announced late in June. Give us a rundown of CAP, where it's at, and then what you know about this project.
Yeah, so CAP was drilled last year. We had an emerging niobium discovery there, 36 meters at just shy of 0.6%. That included 10 meters over 1%. And while we were completing that program, we completed some geophysics that outlined a big buried mag anomaly. So that was a really interesting target that we felt warranted at least one deeper drill hole to generate some data from that anomaly as well. So this year's program is admittedly small. This is a project I do not believe contributes much in the way of valuation or attention for us right now. It's very much about the flagship Rift project. But the company did still have some flow through dollars on the balance sheet, just
Mm.
over $1 million there. So this program, very focused, 3 to 4 holes that'll include at least two around that new discovery hit from last year, just to start to show if that is remains open, and then at least one deeper drill hole to test that big anomaly and see what's there. So again, small program. I would expect it to wrap up, in the coming weeks, and then again assays from that program early in the fall.
Okay. Obviously, so you have to allocate exploration dollars to this project with the flow through. Jonas, give me a sense. And when I'm looking at that discovery hole of 36 meters of 0.59% niobium, there was a 1% hit in there of 10 meters. I mean, what are we looking at as far as what makes an economic grade for niobium, especially in British Columbia? Like, is that something that you can hang your hat on, or is that a little bit more smoke but worthy of follow up?
Yes, I mean, you look at context in Canada, Niobec's a producer operating at 0.4 percent. Caveat there being, they've been in operation for a long time with all their infrastructure and capex taken care of. Uh, Niocorp, our neighbor in Nebraska, their deposit is generally around that 0.8%. So that gives you some context.
Mhm.
Certainly, 10 meters at a percent is very compelling. And seeing a broader mineralized zone there, I believe it was over 120 meters in that 0.35 type of range. So it certainly would classify as an emerging discovery. Clearly, we need to do more drilling to see how much more of that material exists. And do you continue to see these higher grade zones within the broader envelope? So early days, I'd say it's smoke and some small flames for sure at this point. And let's see what the drilling returns this summer.
Okay. You have some optionality here with cap, right? I mean, if it's something you were looking to maybe get off your books, do you think there'd be some takers for this or some sort of earn-in agreement?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's other projects too that we've staked within Canada. Discovered a new carbonatite on another project as well. So some of these kind of smaller plays for us now, absolutely, as we move forward and continue to really put our focus into Rift and advancing that as rapidly as we can. Monetizing or finding spin out transactions or option agreements on these other assets would make sense going forward.
Okay. Let me get kind of wrap things up here, Jonas. I want to ask you about really the sentiment with critical metal equities here. Obviously, about a year ago, year and a half ago, there's a big, lot of capital flowing into this space, but we've seen these kind of cycles before. Quick spikes up and then really kind of cools down here. That's not need to say like the demand for, a regional rare earth supply chain hasn't gone away. That story is still there, but it seems like the capital has been kind of quiet or subdued since. From what you're hearing, not only with investors, but also conversations that you have in both Canada and in the United States, would you put the sentiment and kind of those conversations and narratives here as we move through these summer doldrums?
It's a great question. I mean, if you look back when we first announced the Rift project, to kind of focus in on the rare earth sector specifically for a minute, the sector was on fire, and every company that had rare earth in their name was appreciating like crazy, and Apex included. Before we even drilled a single hole, our market cap was approaching 450 to 500 million Canadian. Um, now we're 140 million Canadian, so around 100 million US market cap today, and we've put up 10 very solid drill holes and clearly have shown that this is very real, and that there will be a sizable deposit by the end of Q1 next year that we can talk about. So that gives you a sense of where that market's gone. I think the reality here is United States MP Materials mine can only produce about 25% of what's needed. We need a lot more of this material, and when you look at projects in the U.S., there really is a lack of quality. Um, I think this space, what makes it maybe a little more challenging for people as well, when you see a sector that's very hot and yet there's kind of some education and understanding required to better understand it. It's not as transparent as gold or copper or some of these other more mature industries, right? So I
Hmm.
think that gives people pause. One of the things for us that gives us a lot of confidence is our technical team. You know, before we acquired this project or before we drilled a single hole, we were looking at the really critical nuances of rare earth projects because we have experienced people that have been doing this for 20 plus years. And that's, carbonatites, right? That's been the biggest producer of rare earths since the 1950s. You take it one step further, there's not a lot of the minerals that host rare earths that have commercially processed. So you do get a lot of smoke and mirrors out there. Capital, unfortunately, does get allocated to projects that can tout some interesting results, but just don't have the right rocks to extract economically. And so we looked at a lot of different projects, and that's what we liked about Rift a lot is it just checked those boxes before we went
Hmm.
out and drilled a single hole. But yeah, the demand picture I think is increasing. I think we're going to see a period of, international agreements that provide short-term supply on non-Chinese sources, but in the midterm here, absolutely having a project on U.S. soil, I think will be supported with capital as we move forward, no problem.
Yeah, I believe so too. But there's a number of things you do have to kind of get through and provide to the market as well, Jonas. I think when I left the site visit there late last month, I was very much enthused and, as a Nebraska native, very thrilled to see this going. The rocks look good. The process looks fine. I mean, obviously, you're doing everything you can on the exploration side. Biggest question, overhang question right now in my mind is really the metallurgy and with what that flow sheet potentially looks like. What is the process with Apex kind of answering those questions here within the next, 12 months?
Yes, the first step is mineralogy. When speaking about there's four of more than 200 rare earth mineral hosts that have commercially processed, and bastosite and monazite, the two primary ones you see at Mountain Pass MP Materials mine. We've gone through the historical literature. What we see in the core supports that it is those two at varying percentages. But we've done what's called TEMA. That's work to just confirm that. So that preliminary work has been completed. We should have the results of that, which we do expect just to reinforce that it is in fact monazite and bastosite. So that would be a checkbox there. Once we have those results, that will help inform the metallurgy work. We have engaged with SGS for that already, but we need the results from step one to then inform some of the details of what that met work program will look like. But that very much is a part of our plan here through the second half of this year to position ourselves to not only talk about a resource and grade and scale, but be able to substantiate it even further with some of this other detail that is important.
Okay, very good. All right, Jonas, thanks so much for your time. Looking forward to seeing more drill results. Obviously, a number of holes still out there pending assay results, and then seeing where you move those drill rigs next at Rift. It's a great time. You got a long summer and fall there, so a lot of work can be done over the next few months. But appreciate your time. Thanks so much for the update.
Thank you.
The information presented should not be considered investment advice. Mining Stock Daily and its affiliates are not responsible for any loss arising from any investment decision in connection with the material presented herein. Please do your own research or speak with a licensed financial representative before making any investment decisions.